Stand by.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew G. Taylor, and I'm a victim of an illegal guardianship in New Jersey. It is an honor to be here to tell our story. In 3 to 5 minutes, it will be impossible to express the true toll of guardianship abuse on our family. After doing extensive research, I have realized the federal government has been studying this problem for 30 years. Yet no action has been taken to stop the abuse of human trafficking, the ill, disabled, and elderly for a profit. The government is aware that for every law that is put in place, the state and federal agencies look the other way when it comes to protecting society's most vulnerable people. Many times the predators are entrenched in our federal and state agencies. The saying, "Beware of wolves in sheep's clothing," is very appropriate for the predators lurking in our courts, disguised as judges and lawyers misrepresenting the scales of justice. The courts do not demand Americans with disabilities accommodations in the courtrooms for the alleged wards. Our state and federal investigators charged with protecting and enforcing the laws surrounding the exploitation choose to not believe the predators are committing crimes. The Federal Office of Civil Rights rules in guardianship cases, doctors do not need a court order or subpoena to submit medical evidence, even though that is what the current amended HIPAA statute states. Investigators are confusing that just because a person is alleged to be incapacitated or a person is incapacitated means the HIPAA statute no longer is applicable. Federal and state investigators' bias towards the ill and disabled allow the discrimination to continue. There is a trend to look the other way and not follow the law, to overlook and ignore the laws due to discrimination held by many for the population's most vulnerable members. We are viewed as throwaways with no voice and a great income stream for predators. The federal government condones and reinforces this belief by allowing the justice system to demand the alleged ward pay for everyone's legal fees in guardianship proceedings. The person who brings forth the allegations does not have to pay for anything. This allows the predators to target the ill, disabled, and elderly for financial abuse, where every attorney in the courtroom is guaranteed payment, opening up the door for attorneys to keep cases in the courts as long as possible. My brain tumor that I have survived for 17 years with has caused me to have both TBI and front lobal syndrome. My condition makes it very hard for me to infer who might do harm to either myself or my family, especially under stress. I am unable to process and sequence information in real time. Many of the predators have taken advantage of my cognitive disability. The attorney who filed for my guardianship had major conflicts of interest, as well as violating multiple rules of the court and egregious ethics violations. After bringing this to the attention of New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, the governor did not demand a full investigation into Mr. Kearns, one of the attorneys' behavior, but rather rewarded Anthony P. Kearns III by naming him the Hunterdon County prosecutor. What does it take for the government to intervene in these cases? We have a tape where 2 lawyers stated that if I was to speak during the proceeding, it would become clear that I did not have a problem with having too little, but having too much capacity. It would become clear that I did not meet the parameters of incapacity as defined by the state of New Jersey. Yet my wife's attorney told her she needed to countersue for guardianship rather than to show I did not fit the definition of incapacity under the New Jersey statute. Not one lawyer on the case represented the real interest of me or my family. Their interests were running up unlimited legal bills, the perfect crimes sanctioned by the courts. Guardianship abuse happens when the medical community uses guardianship to try to force people into experimental treatment. That's what happened in our guardianship abuse. That's what started our guardianship abuse nightmare. The federal government had fined Sharing Plow $435 million for off-labeling the chemo drug Temodor, with no proof that the drug works, a year earlier than they were trying to force me to take it. Healthcare fraud is the perfect crime hidden within guardianship abuse. A victim that has been stripped of all their rights is unable to report the fraud and abuse. Sloan Kettering's chief of neurology, Dr. Lisa DeAngelis, and Dr. Igor Gavrilovich, knowing the drug was not approved by the FDA for my tumor type, fraudulently told me that my tumor was growing, and if I did not take the drug Temidor, I would die in 3 years. That was in 2008. It's now 2012, and last time I checked, I still have a pulse, and my mind is intact, so they're wrong. All right. When I did not want to continue with the chemo drug Temidor after finding out that Sloan Kettering lied stating the drug was effective, they threatened my wife. If she did not force me to take it, they would have her thrown into jail. They did one better. They instigated a guardianship proceeding, putting in an illegal and fraudulent certification. They accused my wife of medically harming me. Fast forward 1 year later, we find out from my neurosurgeon, Dr. Peter Black of Brigham's Hospital in Boston, that Sloan Kettering did lie. I did not need the medical treatment because my tumor was stable and had not shown growth in 4 years. Sloan Kettering committed perjury and committed fraud, and the government looks the other way. If Dr. Black did not come back from sabbatical, the judge would have ruled in Sloan Kettering's favor, and my wife would not be my guardian. I would have been a prisoner to a professional guardian who would have forced medical treatment on me that I did not need based on a false certification from Sloan Kettering. I would not have the opportunity to share my story today. My life would be dictated and owned by a professional guardian. I would be a victim of human trafficking for profit, which in essence is what guardianship abuse is. So, what happens when the family can prove fraud upon the court, but the investigators at the state and federal level look the other way? Ask the FBI, New Jersey Special Investigations Unit, the New Jersey Attorney General's office why they are not prosecuting this case. Based on the tapes, they have all heard the tapes, they choose to look the other way because of the political connections to politicos. Governor Chris Christie named Anthony B. Kearns, one of the attorneys on the case, to be a state prosecutor, knowing full well about our case. Ray Daniels, a special investigator for the state of New Jersey, and his partner told us in our home they could hear the tape as clear as a bell. The FBI stated there is no extortion or color of law violations. The FBI refused to interview me as the victim. The Office of Civil Rights in New York, Michael Carter, denies Sloan Kettering violated my HIPAA rights. Yet the Boston Office of Civil Rights, Karen Beretta, disagrees but says Boston's hands are tied if Mr. Carter chooses not to prosecute. The FBI turns a blind eye. The whole case is fraud upon the courts, and law enforcement of the state and federal government refuse to prosecute the predators. My civil rights have been stripped from me based on fraud upon the courts. In New Jersey, a guardianship should not be entertained if there is a valid power of attorney and healthcare proxy. We had both in place for terms of interment or full incapacity. My full plenary guardianship should be reversed, and the predators should be prosecuted at no cost to my family or me. All attorneys' fees should be reimbursed or paid by the people who frivolously filed it. Judge John F. Malone should be disbarred and debenched. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Please see our family's written story for a more in-depth view of this travesty of justice. Our government rewards the predators and punishes victims and their families. Always remember this. It's a quote in the lobby of the Newark, New Jersey FBI building. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. That's from Edmund Burke. He was an Irish philosopher. Bright guy. Why are the good men and women of the United States government looking the other way? This is a national epidemic that needs federal intervention rather than countless studies. Thank you.